I don't know why I was in the mood, but when I left that night, I was strictly in a hunting mood.
Pure Evil: The Disturbing Crimes of Serial Killer Sean Vincent Gillis. Discover why authorities called Sean Vincent Gillis a true serial killer. Admitting he was pure evil, Gillis's crimes indeed painted a picture of a deeply disturbed individual. Born in 1962, Gillis had a troubled childhood. His father, struggling with alcoholism and mental illness, abandoned the family soon after Gillis was born. Raised by his mother with the help of his grandparents in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, young Gillis was a quiet child with average grades, but he had a violent side. A neighbor, Carolyn Clay, recalled an incident where she saw Gillis furiously beating on garbage cans in the middle of the night, highlighting his bouts of intense anger. After high school, Gillis attended some community college and worked various low-paying jobs while living with his mother. His life took a darker turn when his mother moved to Atlanta for a job, leaving Gillis alone for the first time. Loneliness and an obsession with pornography consumed him, leading to erratic behavior and anger towards his mother. In 1992, Gillis was caught peeping into a neighbor's window, and his obsession with pornography grew. Despite his disturbing behavior, he began a steady relationship with a woman named Terry Lemoyne in 1994. That same year, Gillis killed his first victim. He later claimed he initially only attempted to rape 81-year-old Ann Bryan in March, but when she screamed, he lost control and brutally stabbed her multiple times.
First victim was a Bryan. She was there, she aroused me. Period.
Meanwhile, Gillis's obsession with violent pornography deepened. He even showed Lemoyne a photo of a dead woman, but she dismissed it and stayed with him, unaware of the darkness that would follow. Though his first murder showed how brutal he could be, Sean Vincent Gillis didn't kill again for another 5 years. From January 1999 to January 2000, he murdered 4 women, bringing his total to 5 victims. He killed a 6th in October 2000 and took his final 2 victims in October 2003 and February 2004. These murders shared some gruesome similarities. The 7 women, mostly prostitutes, all in their mid-30s to early 50s, were strangled and mutilated. Then Gillis dumped their bodies in remote areas far from Baton Rouge. When police found the body of his second victim, it was a particularly eerie scene.
The body was placed under a dead-end sign. It was apparent that it had been placed there, and making the sign part of the scene, if you will.
She was on her back in a kind of balletic pose next to a dead-end sign, which I thought was his humor. In a very sick kind of way, dead end, said former District Attorney Premilia Burns, who called him a true serial killer.
And also thinking, oh my gosh, I now have a serial killer to prosecute.
In the case of another victim, the body was found so badly damaged that, according to East Baton Rouge Sheriff's Major Brian White, you could barely tell it was a human being.
I was assigned to work with this task force.
Despite finding bodies, no murder weapon, witnesses, or fingerprints were ever discovered. The cops had no leads, leaving Gillis free to continue his killing spree. All of Gillis' murders began with him strangling victims with zip ties. He would then dismember their bodies, sometimes removing their tattoos. Sean Vincent Gillis left a crucial piece of evidence at his final murder scene that would lead to his capture. A muddy tire track near his last victim's body became a significant clue. Investigators had previously found hairs at the scenes, once suspecting another serial rapist and killer in the area, Derek Todd Lee, but the DNA didn't match anyone in the system. Instead, the tire tracks proved to be the key. Detectives took photos and molds of the rare Goodyear tire tracks. Local authorities collaborated with Goodyear stores to track purchases of this specific tire type in Baton Rouge. Investigators then tested the DNA of about 200 people who had bought those tires. The match was Sean Vincent Gillis.
It's more than circumstantial that he would make those statements and have those tires. Do an interview with him as soon as possible.
Invited him to come down and he agreed.
During the initial interview in April 2004, detectives interviewed Gillis and suspected they had their man.
So we're doing homicide investigation.
You're here apparently because your tires or your car was seen on Ben Hur.
We're here because the weekend before this poor woman was killed and dumped there, my car had been there. I'm just saying, I'm not your guy. I'm really not. I'm a guilty person.
They executed a search warrant for Gillis's home the day after the first interview and found dozens of photos of his victims.
I count myself lucky that I did not become one of those women. Sean was the best actor I ever met. I would never, ever have thought that he could be the monster he turned out to be.
The word monster come to mind.
With Gillis now in custody, the police began the arduous task of sifting through the details of his murders. Gillis confessed to the murders, expressing both pride and regret. "I'm sorry I hurt people," he said, "but I would do it again. You let me out on the street, I'll find somebody before sundown. If anything in my useless life comes out," he said later, "help the little girls today not to be the premature corpses of tomorrow." With these confessions, authorities prosecuted Gillis and secured his conviction for multiple murders in 2008, sentencing him to life in prison.
Should be eligible for the most severe of penalties.
Serial killer Sean Gillis escaped the death penalty in Baton Rouge. Gillis got life because the jury deadlocked.
Deliberations went nearly 4 hours, but no unanimous verdict, which is required for the death penalty.
While in prison, he continued to show regret and wrote letters to a friend of his last victim. In these letters, he seemed sorry, but still spoke like a cold, experienced killer. As for what was really going on in Sean Vincent Gillis's mind, it's hard to say for sure. During questioning by District Attorney Burns, Gillis admitted to having disturbing thoughts about his mother. She made him very angry when she left him, but he also felt very close to her when she took care of him as a boy. Back then, nobody knew what kind of person he would turn out to be. The story of Sean Vincent Gillis is a grim reminder of the darkness that can hide behind an ordinary facade. For years, he evaded capture, leaving pain and horror in his wake. His eventual capture brought some solace to the victims' families, underscoring the tireless efforts of law enforcement. Gillis's tale highlights the fragility of life and the ongoing quest for justice in the face of true evil.